3 words on page 14 that weren't there when she signed. Property of Morrow. Elena Vasquez is standing in a hallway that smells like floor polish and old carpet. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the kind that make everything look like a crime scene photo. She's gripping the contract so hard the paper is buckling under her thumbs. She reads the clause again. Then again, the words don't rearrange. They just sit there, patient, like they've been waiting for her to catch up. A door opens down the corridor. She doesn't look up. She doesn't need to. The footsteps are slow, deliberate, the walk of a man who has never been in a hurry, because the world has always waited for him. He stops 3 feet away. Dark suit, white shirt, eyes that have already made every decision that matters. You read it, he says. She looks up, red-rimmed eyes, jaw set. Her hands are shaking just enough that he can see it, and she can see that he sees it. I'm not your property. He holds her gaze. Then, quiet enough that she almost doesn't catch it. Not yet. Here's what she doesn't know, standing in that hallway. That clause wasn't written to own her. It was written because someone already wanted her dead. The question isn't why Dominic Morrow put it there. The question is who made it necessary. Don't go anywhere. We're starting at the beginning. 29 years old. 1 sister. 1 debt. No margin for error. That's Elena's entire life stripped to the bone. And the bone is what matters, because everything she does from here grows directly out of it. Sophia is 22. She's been living with a time bomb in her chest since last spring. Genetic, quiet, the kind of condition that introduces itself politely and then accelerates without apology. The surgery has a 91% success rate. The surgeon is ready. The hospital is ready. The number at the bottom of the payment form is $100,000. Elena has tried everything. Doubles, loan applications, selling everything that wasn't nailed down. None of it came close. And Sophia doesn't know the full number, because Elena decided a long time ago that Sophia's only job is to survive, and everything else is hers to carry. She sees the surrogacy clinic flyer on a Wednesday. She walks past it. She walks back. She takes it home and reads the fine print 3 times before she picks up the phone. The intake nurse says, no physical involvement with the client. It's all clinical. Elena says, I understand. She does not yet understand anything. Now him. Dominic Morrow doesn't give interviews. He doesn't attend galas. What he appears in are financial journals and occasionally federal case files that open quietly and close the same way. 15 years the pattern is the same. Investigation begins, witnesses reconsider, case dissolves. He's 49. Never married. And there's a reason for that. One his physician has managed in strict confidence for over a decade. His body, somewhere during the construction of an empire, held together by controlled tension and managed paranoia, shut the door on anything that felt like vulnerability. Everything soft got locked out. Desire included. His mother, Claudette, is 71, and she didn't build the family's first real wealth by accepting excuses. Picture this, a dining room with too many candles. Claudette sits at the head of the table, napkin folded precisely, wine untouched. Dominic sits across from her. She doesn't raise her voice. She never does. A grandchild, she says. Before New Year's, or Marcus assumes control of the trust, Dominic is still. That's not how the charter works. I rewrote the charter in August. She lifts her wine. You should read your mail. Across town, Dominic's younger brother Marcus is having lunch with a man named Selby from a private investigation firm. Marcus picks up the check. He's smiling, the smile of a man who already knows how the chess game ends and is simply enjoying the remaining moves. Remember that name. Selby. It comes back. The surrogacy clinic was Dominic's solution. Clean, documented, controlled. He reviewed 12 candidate profiles. He sends lawyers to these meetings always. This time he sent himself. One answer on her intake form stopped him cold. The question was, "Why do you want to do this?" Her answer, "Because someone needs me too." He walked into that waiting room, and she was standing apart from the other candidates. Second-hand coat, no performance, no audition energy, and something that had been locked in his chest for 15 years registered her the way a compass registers north. He sent the other candidates home before the session began. She thought she got lucky. Week 1. The natural conception clause is the one Elena fought. Hard, explicitly. For 40 minutes in a conference room with 2 lawyers watching. Then her phone buzzed. A voicemail from Sophia's hospital about the payment deadline. She listened to it twice. Put the phone face down on the table. Signed. She told herself, transaction, bodies, biology, necessity. A business arrangement that happens to require proximity. The hotel suite didn't look like a business arrangement. Flowers on the knitstand. Candles that someone chose carefully. The particular kind of attention that meant someone had thought about what she might want. She stands in the doorway, and before her practical brain can intervene, she feels something. Seen. Which is the most dangerous thing she could feel right now. She steps inside. They are both starting from the same place, it turns out. What she expected, efficiency, detachment, a man running through a checklist, isn't what she gets. What she gets is tentative, careful, someone paying attention to what her breathing is doing. She doesn't have a word for it. She doesn't look for one. She leaves before dawn. No note. He lies awake watching the ceiling and thinks, I would like to know her name in daylight. He doesn't say it to anyone. He files it somewhere inside himself and goes back to being Dominic Morrow. Week 2. She's eating more, sleeping differently. The kind of changes you notice before you're ready to name them. She buys a test on a Tuesday between a double shift and Sophia's physical therapy. She takes it in the hospital bathroom, not her apartment, because she doesn't want Sophia to see what her face does. 2 lines appear, fast, like they'd been waiting. Elena sits down on the floor, doesn't cry. She just lets it become real in stages, the way you let your eyes adjust to a dark room. Pregnant. The deal is moving. Sophia gets the surgery. This is what she wanted. All of that is true. It doesn't explain why her hands are shaking. Meanwhile, Marcus Morrow sits across from Selby at a different restaurant. Same routine. He slides an envelope across the table. Everything, Marcus says. Family, medical, financial. Selby opens the envelope, glances at the name inside, and nods. Marcus leans back. I want to know what she's afraid of. Everyone has a pressure point. He straightens his cufflink. Find hers. Hold that. Everything that goes wrong in the next 3 weeks starts right here, at this table. Week 3. Elena sent a formal message to the contact number on the contract. 3 sentences. Pregnancy confirmed. Awaiting next steps. Per agreement. Dominic reads it 4 times. He calls. She doesn't pick up. He calls again. She answers with the voice she uses for work. Neutral, flat, expecting a task. I'd like to meet, he says. That wasn't in the contract. A pause. Something shifts in it. I'd like to amend it. She almost says no. The no is sitting right at the front of her throat. Then she thinks about what it means to spend 8 more months trading clinical messages with a man who put flowers in a hotel room for a woman he'd never met, and something in her decides she wants to understand him before she can no longer afford to. 1 meeting, public, daytime. Done. She hangs up first. She always does. The cafe is neutral ground. He's already there when she arrives, which she notices and files away. They talk logistics for 10 minutes. Payment schedules, prenatal protocols, confidentiality. She keeps it procedural. He follows her lead. Then there's a pause, the kind where both people have said everything they prepared and are standing at the edge of everything they didn't. "Why me?" she says. He doesn't answer immediately. He turns his teacup slightly. Then he slides a document across the table. Page 14. Property of Morrow. Her eyes come up sharp. "Explain this." He holds her gaze, doesn't flinch, doesn't explain. Just, "There are people who would use you to reach me. That clause prevents it." That's not an answer. That's a perimeter. Sometimes they're the same thing. She stares at him. She can feel the door he left closed, the thing he's not saying sitting between them on the table like a third person. She picks up the document, folds it, puts it in her bag. "I'll find out what you're not telling me," she says. "I always do." She leaves. Elena goes home and researches Dominic online. That's boring to watch. So instead, we're going to show you what she finds by showing you what it does to her. 2 a.m., Elena's kitchen. Cold coffee. Laptop light on her face. Her expression has changed 3 times in the last hour. First, focus. Then, confusion. Now, something heavier. She's found the federal cases. The witnesses who stopped talking. The business partner named Reyes who moved countries. But that's not what stopped her. She's staring at a 3-year-old society page photo. A charity function. Dominic, half turned from the camera, talking to a woman. The caption reads, "Adele Renault, close associate." Elena almost scrolled past it. Then she found the follow-up. Adele Renault, 6 months later, quiet relocation to Lyon, France. And a daughter, born shortly after. The daughter's name is Iris. Elena closes the laptop. She sits in the dark kitchen and presses her palms flat against the table, like she's trying to stop the room from tilting. He has a child, a daughter he's never met, and that, not the dynasty, not his mother's ultimatum, is the locked room at the center of everything. Here's what it cost him to keep it locked. Dominic has never held Iris. When Adele left, she wanted a clean life, and he decided that a Morrow father was the opposite of clean. He supported them through an anonymous trust for 5 years. He receives 2 photographs a year forwarded through a lawyer. He looks at them alone. He puts them away. The surrogacy wasn't really about his mother's deadline. It was about this. He already loved one child from a distance, and decided distance was the responsible choice. He wanted to know if he could be something different, if there was still time. Marcus found out about Iris 4 months ago. He's been building a legal argument that Claudette's grandchild condition has already been fulfilled by a child Dominic chose to abandon. If that argument reaches the trust attorneys before New Year's, the surrogacy becomes moot. Dominic's position collapses. Marcus steps in. The protection clause was never about controlling Elena. It was about making sure that when Marcus moves, she isn't collateral damage. 2 days later, Elena shows up at Dominic's building. No appointment. Security calls up. He tells them to let her through. She walks into his office, puts the printout on his desk. A photograph of a girl in Lyon, with his jawline and Adele's eyes. "There's a little girl in Lyon." NH goes completely still. "Is she yours?" Silence. "The kind you can't perform." Then, "Yes. Have you met her?" "No." She watches his face. She's looking for the calculation, the cold math she expected from a man like this. She can't find it. What she finds looks like grief wearing a very expensive suit. She sits down without being invited. Looks out the window. The city stretches out behind him, indifferent. "My mother walked out when Sophia was 4, she says quietly. "I didn't get a contract, I didn't get a clause, I just decided she was mine." She turns back to him. "So what are you deciding?" He stares at her. In 15 years of rooms full of people who want things from him, she's the first person who has looked at him and wanted nothing except the truth. He starts talking. Everything, Marcus, the trust, the case files, Adele. Iris, 20 minutes. She doesn't interrupt once. When he finishes, she says, "So the clause protects me because Marcus would use me." "Yes." "And the baby." "Yes." She breathes in, out. "What happens if Marcus wins?" He holds her gaze. One sentence, no legalese. "He won't touch you." That's not a plan. That's a promise. It's both. She looks at him for a long time. She doesn't say, "I trust you." She's not there yet. But she picks up her bag without taking the document back from his desk. "Sophia's discharge is Thursday," she says. "I'll be available by phone Friday morning." She leaves. He sits in the silence she left behind and feels something he hasn't felt in 15 years. A door opening. 2 days later, Marcus moves. A lawyer shows up at Sophia's hospital room on a Tuesday afternoon. Polite, professional. He explains gently that Elena's surrogacy arrangement may be subject to a legal review that could delay compensation. He leaves a card he says to call with questions. Sophia holds the card for 3 hours before she can say it without her voice breaking. Elena calls Dominic. He picks up on the second ring. She tells him about the lawyer visit, and then he asks for the lawyer's name. She hears his breathing shift, not dramatically, just a slight recalibration, the sound of something being moved from patience to priority. For good 8 minutes. Then he hangs up. 7 minutes later, her phone buzzes. Text says, "Handled." He won't come back. The lawyer's card goes in the trash. The hospital processes the full payment Thursday without a single flag. Elena stands at her apartment window that night, hands flat on the glass, city spread below her, and sits with what just happened. Not the money, not the power. The fact that she felt safe when she saw that word, handled, not rescued, not owned, safe. She's only ever felt that when she was alone. Marcus's case doesn't collapse with a bang. It collapses the way everything real in this family gets done, quietly, through paperwork. But we're not going to skip the moment it happens, because it costs something. The trust attorney's boardroom. Long table. Too much wood. Marcus sits on one side with his lawyer. Dominic sits on the other with 3. Dominic's team presents the counter-argument. Iris's existence doesn't fulfill Claudette's condition because Dominic was never legally recognized as her father, by design, at Adele's request, for the child's protection. The surrogacy contract is the first legitimate, documented path to an heir. Marcus's claim has no standing. Marcus listens. His face doesn't change. When it's over, he straightens his tie and looks at his brother across the table. "You buried a daughter to protect your position." Dominic doesn't blink. "I buried my name to protect my daughter." There's a difference. Marcus holds his gaze for 3 seconds. Then he stands, buttons his jacket, and walks out. He sends a bottle of wine to Dominic's office the next day. The card says, "Congratulations." Dominic doesn't open the bottle. He understands the gesture exactly. Claudette meets Elena on a Thursday. Not at a dinner. Not arranged. She simply appears at the hospital, while Sophia does her post-recovery exercises 20 feet away. Claudette doesn't look at Elena. She watches Sophia through the glass. "She looks strong," she says. "She is," Elena says. A pause. Then Claudette reaches into her bag and sets a small envelope on Elena's knee. Iris's last photograph. "My son doesn't know I have a copy." She stands, straightens her coat. He should meet her. He's waited long enough to stop punishing himself. She leaves without looking back. Elena holds the envelope. She doesn't open it. She gives it to Dominic that evening. Unopened. He looks at it for a long time. She watches his face do something she has no name for. Not grief, not release. The expression of a man setting down something he's carried alone in the dark, so long he forgot it had weight. "I want to go," he says. To Lion, to Iris, when Adele's ready, "I know," I don't know how. You start by deciding you're going to. The rest you figure out on the way. He looks at her, and then something she doesn't expect. He laughs, quiet, brief, genuine. The laugh of someone who's just been told something obvious and entirely new at the same time. She smiles, the first real one. Not warmth, not politeness, full, unguarded. He reaches across the table and takes her hand. She lets him. Outside, the city is loud and cold and entirely indifferent. A December night full of people who will never know any of this happened. Not the contract, not the clause, not the photographs in a lawyer's envelope, not the night two people who'd never let anyone close were careful with each other in the dark. None of it makes the news. All of it is real. She went in with a number and a sister who needed saving. She came out understanding that the bravest thing two broken people can do is simply refuse to pretend with each other. He gave her a contract. She gave him back something he'd stopped believing he could have. Not an heir, a reason to be someone worth knowing. Except there's one thing neither of them has dealt with yet. Adele Renu has seen the news. The Morrow name is back in headlines. A new child, a surrogacy arrangement, a woman no one has identified. Adele has spent 5 years building a quiet life in Lyon around one understanding, that Dominic Morrow would stay a monthly deposit and a name Iris would never need to know. That understanding just shattered. She's not coming back for him. She made peace with Dominic a long time ago. She's coming because Iris is 5, and she started asking questions about her father. And Adele has run out of answers that don't feel like lies. Next chapter. What happens when the woman who left meets the woman who stayed? If you're still here, you already know which choice is harder. Letting someone in or staying safe by keeping them out? Tell me in the comments. Did Dominic wait too long? Or was the distance the only way he knew how to love? Follow for the next chapter. Share this with someone who needs a story tonight. And if this one hit you, you're exactly who I made it for.